Radio 1020 KDKA.
Edgewood shootings, Bloomfield shooting, that was just yesterday. Is it ever going to end? Nope, it's not going to end. But can you protect yourself? Absolutely. And one of the ways, if you check out livewithconfidence.com, from Impacts, Sam Rosenberg and his professionals can show you how. He also works in conjunction with Lou Gentile, Bob Minard, CSI investigators, and he joins us today on the 84 Lumber Project Professional Newsline. And I know Passover, the holiday underway, and you're spending time with family, and got a hold of you very late last night, and I do appreciate you getting up early today to join me, Sam. It's nice to have you back on KDKA.
Thanks, Rob. Pleasure to be here again. Happy Easter to you.
All right. What can people do? Let's before we talk about without being armed, it's gotten to the point where I can't see people not wanting to learn to be able to fire a weapon and with a gun permit be able to carry a weapon. And another example yesterday in Edgewood, Swissvale, people shopping get caught up in the middle of a crossfire. 3 people are shot. 1 is in critical condition this morning. The madness just never stops. So how do people go about getting a permit and learning how to operate and use a firearm? Sam.
Well, Rob, let me preface that, the answer to that question with just a couple of comments, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
First of all, I think you have to understand that in a somewhat paradoxical statement, violent crime is still dropping in this country, that it's still on the reduction. All right, we haven't seen as much of this kind of activity that we saw in Edgewood. Recently, it was much more common, back in the 80s and in the early 90s, that sort of thing. And obviously, it can still happen. That's the problem that's what I mean by it being a paradoxical statement, is that, while violent crime is dropping, this type of thing can still happen anywhere. And it doesn't matter what the neighborhood is, it can still happen. And, when you start talking about personal protection, obviously, as I say all the time, personal protection, it's not just a fundamental human need. Ultimately, it's an individual responsibility. So when we start looking about what can you do in this situation, before we even start talking about guns, I think it's important that everybody understands that, no matter where you are, you have to have a degree of situational awareness that allows you to be able to respond to a crisis no matter what it is. And, if you are someone who takes on the ultimate responsibility of carrying a firearm, and you have that ability and you actually, take the time to train and to learn how to use that tool, you can have a very life-saving tool at your disposal. But the idea is that it doesn't change the fact that, before that, the prerequisite is that you have a degree of situational awareness, you have a degree of training in general that allows you to respond to crisis, whether it's a shooting in your vicinity, a murder, and any other type of situation in general. So to answer your question directly, if you wanted to get a permit, in Pennsylvania it's not hard. There's no requirement for training, which is something that we can talk about if you'd like.
Absolutely.
But, the idea to me is that you can, in fact, apply, through your county sheriff's office. And typically, if you're looking for a permit from the standpoint of personal protection and you're not a criminal, you're going to be awarded that permit, because Pennsylvania is a fairly liberal state from the standpoint of being able to issue and allow its citizens to protect themselves. The Constitution of Pennsylvania, which actually predated the federal Constitution, had a very clear and clearly defined statute when it came to the possession of firearms. And forgive me, I don't have it in front of me, but I believe it says very distinctly that the right for a citizen to carry and to possess a firearm for personal defense shall not be infringed. So it was actually even clearer than the Second Amendment. so. We have a long history in the state of Pennsylvania of encouraging our citizens to be responsible for their personal safety and giving them the tools and the ability to do so.
But Sam, if you were at this location yesterday and a gun battle breaks out, basically, and you're there with your family, you want to at least have a chance to protect your family. And look, I've never owned a gun, and I am not a proponent of guns, but I believe in the right hands, or if someone is properly trained, and I'm starting to even think about possibly becoming a gun owner, that you can at least have an opportunity to have a fighting chance, not so much for yourself, but if you're a parent like me, to save your children. The statistics may say that it's gone down, but these are very scary times that we live in right now.
Yeah, and you know, Rob, the thing is this, okay? I want you to think about it in this situation in Edgewood, or if we start to look at it in a broader national context, say, for example, the Aurora shooting in Colorado.
Right.
You know, if you're a gun owner and you're carrying a firearm, your priority, if you're a rational, well-trained person, your priority in a situation like that, if you're there in that vicinity with your family, is not to drop everything and start shooting it out with the bad guy.
No.
Your priority is first and foremost to get your family to safety. So, you know, the dynamic of, you know, having a situation like Edgewood where two bad guys, you know, two complete, in my opinion, complete scumbags decide to blaze away at each other with total reckless disregard for all of the various people and other possible, you know, children and whatever else that are around, you know, without any kind of thought whatsoever. That's almost one of the things that really truly defines a bad guy versus a good guy here. And I use those terms, you know, generically, as you can imagine. But the idea here is that, you know, the bad guys don't care about collateral damage, and they don't care about spraying rounds into a crowd to try and hit their target without any kind of regard whatsoever for what's around there. So a lawful gun owner, a lawful citizen who wants to carry a firearm to protect themselves, if you realize that they have a much greater degree of responsibility from the standpoint that we not only have a degree of actual liability to protect and make sure that no one that you are not justified in engaging is hit with a stray round, but you have a moral liability too. And everyone that I know who seeks firearm training takes that very, very seriously.
All right, listen, I got to interrupt, and I'd like to have you back at another time to talk about training. But please, if you go to livewithconfidence.com, you can find out about everything that Impex does, or you can go simply to csiinvestigators.com or call Lou Gentile, Bob Miner, and get in touch with Sam as well. The phone number at CSI Investigators in Center Township, 724-775-3577. And Impex, what's your number?
888-433-2040.
Please come back, Sam, and I thank you for your insight and your professionalism. And, you know, being a parent, it just makes me feel the need to talk more about this stuff, to at least give people the facts. Have a good day.
Thanks, Rob. Take care.
Good stuff with Sam Rosenberg on the 84 Lumber Project Professional Newsline.
Baseball is back.
Let's play ball.
And KDKA